Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, her website taxpayer.com. Welcome back to the show, Kris.
Thank you.
Kris, the federal government announcing an $82 billion aid program to get us through this coronavirus and subsequent economic collapse. Are you going to keep an eye on where and how this money is spent?
It's really quite a thing, isn't it? People say this often, but I think it applies here. We're in uncharted waters. So we're definitely going to be keeping a very close eye on where this money is going and how it's being spent. But what we want out of this is for people to be helped. So we're going to be giving them a lot of room, a lot of leeway. We know that there are experts that have been working on this at the government level and at the corporate level. And so we hope that they're figuring it out. We're also trying to give them a bit of room in the sense that a lot of us are figuring it out. They may not know exactly how much money is needed yet. That might change by next week. We might need to ramp up production of other things a few days from now. So we're kind of waiting and watching and really just trying to encourage each other. I know a lot of people are quite anxious right now, especially people with vulnerabilities if they have underlying health conditions. I know myself, I've got elderly family members who are very dear to me. I've basically told them, don't leave your house. I'll bring you anything you need and I'll leave it on your step, like with a sanitized glove, things like that. So if you would have told me I'd be doing that 2 weeks ago, I would have been pretty surprised. So all in all, I know the entire CTF team, our whole family at the taxpayers, are trying to take a wait-and-see approach, and we're trying to be as encouraging as possible. And so I'm actually sharing a lot of, public health news online or updates from the government, because I know that some followers just follow online. They don't listen to the radio or they don't watch TV updates. And so we're basically just trying to help right now as best we can.
And I think the government is pretty open to suggestions right now. So if you see something you think might help out, are you able to communicate that to the government, and will it be implemented?
That's a great question. Short answer is yes, you're right. They are very open to suggestions right now. It's at those moments where you hope that a government would be. They don't want to be picking through, an entire slush pile of suggestions. But if you've got a really good point and you need to make it, and you can help, you're just trying to help, then I think it would be a really good idea to reach out to government. For example, and I want to get this out as far and wide as possible, the call went out from the feds, I think it was yesterday morning, feels like a week ago now how things change, went out yesterday morning that if any manufacturer in Canada can retool to develop medical supplies, things like a ventilator, you are asked to contact the federal government right now. This came directly from Perrin Beatty, who heads up the Canadian Manufacturers Association, who was giving out an email address that I can share with you later of the federal government. So it's a real call, it's a real thing. If you're a manufacturer, if you're a supplier, if you can start making stuff they need, things like masks, things like ventilators, right now, they want to hear from you right now.
Perrin Beatty, isn't that a former cabinet minister?
Yeah, I believe he's one and the same, which is interesting. Funny you mentioned that. I was just going through, reading up on what the difference is between the War Measures Act, as was, of course, invoked during the First World War, and again, we saw it happen more recently for us old-timers, so during the October crisis, when Pierre Elliott Trudeau was Prime Minister. That's the War Measures Act. It's actually been updated into the Emergency Measures Act. And it included amendments, important things like the Charter of Rights and Freedoms still being in play, different things like that, making sure that if anybody is removed from their place of work or their dwelling in a rush, in an emergency, that they're still owed compensation. So I would say better checks and balances and follow-ups. So I was reading about that. It was interesting. Perrin Beatty, as a cabinet minister, his name was right on the front of a white paper that I think it was from 1988. It was archived. It was right on the government website. But funny you mentioned that. I'm almost positive it's one and the same.
Well, I think Canada is a country that wouldn't mind and could retool. Second World War, we instantly turned our car manufacturing plants into airplane and tank factories. So why not do that for medical supplies? I'm sure there's a lot of electrical companies. And plus 3D printing, can that not be put to work
it is
to get
amazing.
some of this stuff done?
Yep, it's amazing what's being done. And again, I know sometimes, and even when this airs, the numbers will change, and the numbers can be scary, I will admit. But I try to force myself to look at positive things. And one of them was, you're right, in the UK, they put out the call, I think, 2 days ago now, to manufacturers like Rolls-Royce, they're a car manufacturer over there. Hey, if you can make this stuff, start now. Things like that. And you're right, the issue of 3D printing. So there was a case where, of course, it's happening in Italy. I know a lot of us are watching that carefully. It's quite upsetting to see. They were seeing things like, for lack of a better term, because I'm not a medical person, there's a valve on it or a splitter on these things that was tough for them to replace, and it was expensive, and they need it right now, like right now. And then a couple of gentlemen actually figured out how to 3D print the thing for $1, which is amazing. So we're so thankful for technology and smart people who are really pitching in right now.
And Canadians are naturally inventive. We invented the electron microscope. We made practical sonar to find the submarines that were sinking our ships in the First and Second World War. We found the countermeasure to the German acoustic torpedo almost instantly. Tow a couple of pieces of angle iron behind your ship and the acoustic torpedo will go towards it, because the sailors use sailing boats to fish off Newfoundland, use that to keep the whales from hitting their boats because the whales couldn't hear the sailing ships. So Canadians, I think, are inventive. And you said we have kind of a more of a cooperative spirit as well. The people in UK came up with a term for it.
Oh, what is that? I'll keep calm and carry on, or all hands on deck? Which one?
I think it was carry. It wasn't carry on. It's the way that we cooperate and find ways to help each other.
Oh,
rather than isolate. You had a word for it.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
It must have been one of my moments where it spat out and I'd have to rewind my tape to remember to remember it. I know we're very caring and compassionate, and we can collaborate quickly. Those are all my C words for now that I can put onto Canada. But it's good to see. There was a joke kind of going around, if I can make a bit of light of something.
Absolutely.
Where they said, we need to laugh right now. It was really cute. It was on Facebook. It was just after the NHL had shut down. And then, of course, the day after, the brilliant, brilliant men and women at Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto isolated the virus. So they didn't make the vaccine yet, but they isolated the virus 1 day later. And so a big funny joke was going around saying, Canada shut down hockey for 1 day, we find the virus the next day. So I thought that was really cute and very encouraging to people, especially those in the front lines of medicine right now who I can just imagine are quite put to it. I've got family who work actively in frontline medicine right now. I know that they're getting notices saying things like, if you needed to travel to a harder hit area in Canada, when could you leave? So they're getting some pretty serious notices right now, and a lot of them are stepping forward. I hope I won't cry, but there was one notice I saw, I think it was in translation, so it was hard for me to follow. Something like this. Quebec had asked retired medical professionals, if knock wood, we don't need you, if we call upon you, how many could help? And apparently something like 700 retired nurses stepped forward. Like, wow.
That's happening across Canada.
It's really something.
Well, they became medical professionals to help people, and if you have the knowledge to help out.
Yep.
And in Italy, doctors are dying because they have run out of protective equipment. For the medical staff. They don't have gloves, they don't have goggles, they don't have face shields, they don't have gowns, but they're still helping.
It's just amazing to see, and so I think it's really good right now to give people a break, be kinder than you've ever been in your life, help as much as you can. and thank people. I know next time I need to go to the grocery store, I'll certainly be giving a huge thank you to even our checkout lady who I talk to there all the time. She's wonderful. She's got kids. I know she's been working full tilt, and there are truck drivers that are working around the clock. The local manager of my grocery store here in my town has made it very clear personally that he is cordoning off the first 2 hours of every shopping day for seniors and people at risk who are vulnerable, who have compromised immune systems. And I imagine he personally will be standing there. So it's nice to see people doing the right things right now, because I know a lot of us are quite anxious.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims from the Taxpayers Federation. I know in the past, of course, government programs that spent too much on frivolous things were criticized. At this time, how can you tell what's frivolous or isn't? Or is it better in a crisis, throw some money at it and we'll sort out the culprits and victims later?
It's one of those situations where this is almost unprecedented, thankfully. A pandemic is a serious thing, and we've been hearing from our experts very clearly that we need to take this seriously. So it's one of those wait-and-see things. It's do everything you can, and we'll sort it later. I know once we're through this, and we will get through this, then we can figure out and look back and say, oh, well, was that a good idea, or was this distribution right, or I'll put it this way. I'm really, really, really looking forward to the day when I can be super mad about the carbon tax again, or some cabinet minister wasting money on a dinner. I really want to get back there because this is so serious that it's taken a big backseat. So I really look forward to that day, because that means that we'll be through this crisis. And so right now, literally, I'm using my online platforms to share public health messages and to encourage people to take this seriously and to check on their loved ones and their relatives carefully. And again, it's one of those things, as we hear all this money being announced, I really, really, really hope it gets to people who need it and it doesn't get tied up or stuck in some sort of distribution system. I'm sure they've thought of this. They do have emergency measures, plans for these sorts of situations. Very smart people work in some of these departments, and they would have had blueprints for this sort of stuff. So hopefully that's all being enacted, and I just really wish the best for everybody to get through it. Technologically speaking, if I can look at the bright side, compared to where we were, say, 100 years ago, when the Spanish flu hit and took so many lives after the First World War in 1918 and 1919, we didn't have nearly the understanding of infectious disease, of epidemiology, of sanitization, of any of this stuff. And now we've got a much better grip on it. We know how to hopefully sanitize areas much easier. And technologically speaking, many of us, yourself and myself included, many of us can work from home. And we can teleconference, and we can even teleconference with our doctor. We can order our supplies online. We may need to be a bit more patient, but they will come. We can do a lot more at a distance now, safely and cleanly, than they would have been able to 100 years ago. And again, for that, I'm thankful.
Yes, well, in BC now, pharmacists can renew your prescription. You don't have to go to the doctor to do that. And my next medical appointment will be by teleconference.
Isn't that amazing?
Using your camera in your phone. How are you doing? Any concerns? All that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we have technology on our side, and And again, viruses might have been around for billions of years, but humans are still the smartest thing on the planet.
Are we ever? And we're really picking up and helping each other out and seeing all the different inventions coming forward or different drug trials come forward, how quickly people have been jumping on working on a vaccine. I know I saw on Time magazine there the first recipients of a trial. Again, it's very early, but a trial vaccine already happening in Seattle. I know they were working really hard on it in Israel. Seeing a global coordinated response to this, especially on the side of sciences and doctors and epidemiologists, is really encouraging. And so hopefully we'll be able to nip this thing as quickly as humanly possible.
Yes, one of the virus anti-vaccines that they're working on is basically kind of on 3D printing, where they've just taken the enlarged electron microscope pictures of the virus and they're replicating the outside of it. But to do the vaccine, they're not using the actual dead virus or weak virus to make it, which again makes the turnaround very quick. And there's no danger of getting the disease itself, just your immune system, because that's how it works. It reacts to the shape of the particular protein, so they just want to make that shape.
Wow, I didn't know they were able to do it at that level. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
We've come leaps and bounds. And so, again, all the basics are really there. I urge everybody, listen to folks who are telling you to maintain your distance, make sure you constantly wash your hands with soap. And again, if there's something to take out of this that I've learned already, and again, we're learning every day, is that I need to be more aware of vulnerable people around me. While I may be well, or fortunate enough to be well, that doesn't mean necessarily that everybody around me is. And so, for example, I have a gentleman I went to journalism school with, and his daughter is a donation recipient for an organ transplant. And they're immunocompromised for most of their lives because of getting that donation of an organ, which saved their lives. But that also means that they have to be extra special careful. And so if we can all learn from that sort of thing and remind ourselves that while you may be young and healthy, that doesn't mean that the folks around you that you're coming into contact with are. And so if we can be more mindful of the folks around us, at least that's personally a lesson I've learned.
Yeah, and just because you don't easily get sick, that doesn't mean others don't.
Yes, exactly.
And you could be a carrier.
Exactly. And so again, if you can practice those good hygienes, make sure you're not going out into crowds, and use the technology that we have. And again, there may be delays because there are going to be a lot of taxes on the system, I can just imagine. There's going to be delays, but if you can use those delivery systems, teleconference, reach out to people through your screens instead of in public, hopefully we can really get this knocked down. Because, again, we have to get on top and knock down the curve. We need to reduce the frequency of transmission in order to get it down to a lower baseline. So that way our medical systems aren't overwhelmed all of a sudden.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Kris, you have some kudos, some gold stars to hand out for people and companies who are doing the right thing right now.
I do, and this is these folks, I don't necessarily do business with them. It's just something I've personally, as a human being, noticed. And if anybody notices these things also, just feel free to send them to me. You can send them to me on Twitter, online. Little things I've noticed. Like, for example, as you mentioned, Shoppers Drug Marts, London Drugs, I know, is doing a similar thing. A lot of local grocery stores are giving extra space and time to seniors and people with vulnerabilities so that they feel more safe and more secure in our grocery stores. Next kudos, of course, is the supply line workers. These folks, these shippers, these truckers, these overnight stock people that are keeping those shelves full as possible. That's really helping to ease matters and ease anxiety. And for those of us with kids at home, I have a lot of experience homeschooling, or my family does. A lot of parents don't. And now their kids are probably going to be home for the rest of the school year. Like, a lot of them probably won't be going back until September. So that's a lot of learning that hopefully can be done at home. And it's really wonderful to see certain things like, I just saw come across the Smithsonian Channel is now being offered for free by most providers, most carriers. Usually that's something you'd pay for. And it sounds like a little thing, and it maybe is, but that's one extra channel that's educational or full of documentaries that maybe your child or your young adult can learn from. I know, for example, there are entire museums from all around the world that have full virtual tours open now on their websites. You can go there, and all the different little pop-up plaques come along. There's music, and in some of them, which was really cool, especially for younger children, the art history museums have full PDF printable color pages that you can repaint the work of art that you've just learned about. And then at the bottom of it is the history of that work of art. You know, that's really wonderful to have those sorts of resources now. And very quickly, again, I really encourage folks, if you're at home and you're stuck and you don't have much contact with people, dive into audiobooks if you don't have time to read yourself. There are tons of free ones that are all in the public domain. Those classics that you've been meaning to read, Tale of Two Cities to Anne of Green Gables, you can find all of them on YouTube. They're all read by volunteers. You're not breaking any laws. They're all free. And they're there for you. And if you don't want to listen on YouTube, your local library probably has audiobooks that you can borrow for free using your library card number. It's wonderful what we have access to nowadays. And I just really wanted to thank all those corporations and small businesses who are doing that extra bit to make this a little bit easier for people.
Oh, and Kris, before we go, you had that manufacturer's email to help out with the manufacturing of medical equipment?
Yes, I did. And if people can grab their pencils, it's actually a way for you to get in touch with the Government of Canada. So it's the person's name, Celine Cara at canada.ca. And I'll break my rule and I'll spell it out because it's important. CELINE, Celine, dot Cara, CAIRA, at canada.ca. That is the way you get in touch with the folks who are doing the call. And if you can't get through that way, I strongly recommend, it's just on Google Canadian Manufacturers Association, and hit their contact page and let them know if you can help. It's the Canadian Manufacturers Association.
Kris, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for caring so much. Everybody, you take care and be well.
My guest has been Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, her website, taxpayer.com. If you have any questions for Kris or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.